Now, it's still considered one of the best musicals ever made, and any half-decent movie trivia night is going to include these two words. Hello, beautiful. Hello everyone, I'm Marc Daniel Patrick. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. Today we're continuing our look at movie musicals through the decades. Just before we get started, don't forget to check me out on Patreon at the link below, and you can also find me on Instagram at Marc Daniel Patrick. Now if you didn't happen to catch our video on the top 10 picks of the 1950s, I'll throw that up top. Be sure to go check out that one as well. There were just so many classic movie musicals from these two decades that makes it so hard to narrow down. There are even some films that hold records that are still standing today. As we attempt to celebrate all movie musicals from this incredible decade, these are our top 10 picks of the 1960s. Coming in at number 10 is Chitty, Chitty, Bang, Bang. Bonus points for the best title on our list. Described as a musical fantasy film, this 1968 release starring Dick Van Dyke was loosely based on an Ian Fleming novel. Yeah, that Ian Fleming. When he wasn't writing novels for the biggest spy franchise in history, Fleming used to tell his son bedtime stories about a flying car. Stories he would later develop into a novel in 1961. Now, it's not that much of a stretch. A flying car is certainly something Q would conjure up for 007 to blow up halfway through a Bond film, but the film is mostly known for its catchy theme song that won an Oscar that same year. Number 9 on our list belongs to Bye Bye Birdie. This 1963 musical is based on the stage production that was actually inspired by the real-life events of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, who was drafted into the Army in 1957. Featuring Jesse Pearson and, once again, Dick Van Dyke, who's having a hell of a decade. And if you know anything about movie musicals in the 1960s, he may just come up on our list once again. Overall, the film was pretty decent for its time, as it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and one critic perfectly summarizing it by saying it's silly, it's light, and it's very, very pink. And one small current tie-in, when the film premiered in the UK in 1963, who else was in attendance but the late Duke of Edinburgh himself? Coming in at number 8 is Thoroughly Modern Millie. This 1967 movie musical comedy truly cashes in on 3 of the biggest names in show business at the time, in Julie Andrews, Carol Channing, and Mary Tyler Moore. It's a musical spoof based on the Roaring Twenties with a plotline that's a little bit more than dated, suggesting that the only chance women have in this world is basically to marry rich. Admittedly, the film takes a bit of a bizarre turn halfway through and runs on a little too long, but the charm and the wit of our 3 leading dames is good enough to give this cult classic a place in our top 10. Coming in at number 7 is Funny Girl, the film version of the Broadway musical that introduced the world to Barbra Streisand. It was a major critical and commercial success, with the movie becoming the highest grossing film of 1968 and earned 8 Academy Award nominations, including a Best Actress win for Streisand. Not bad, considering Columbia Pictures almost refused to produce the film if Shirley MacLaine was not hired as the lead role. Having no film experience to fall back on, Streisand relies on her one-of-a-kind impeccable talent to ensure no one was going to rain on her parade. Now, it's still considered one of the best musicals ever made, and any half-decent movie trivia night is going to include these 2 words. Hello, beautiful. Coming in at number 6 is Oliver. Now, talk about the movie musical dominating an entire year. Oliver was released in the same year as Funny Girl and by the same company. The 2 together combined for a total of 19 Academy Award nominations, still the most of movie musicals in any year. This British musical was based on the 1838 novel Oliver Twist and includes some of the most iconic songs like Consider Yourself and Where Is Love. The movie is really universal entertainment. It's a lot like The Wizard of Oz, where it appeals in many ways to so many different people. All this leading up to the film winning its Best Picture nomination, a feat that was not accomplished again until 2002 with Chicago. Alright, at number 5, we chose A Hard Day's Night. Released in 1964 at the height of Beatlemania, the film portrays 36 hours in the life of the boys before they embark on a TV performance. Now, despite the age of the film, it's still an absolute delight to watch, and it's really gone down as one of the greatest rock and roll classic films. I'll tell you, it was a staple in my house. I cannot tell you growing up how many times I've seen this movie. Also featuring some of the biggest hits the Beatles ever wrote in A Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love, Tell Me Why, and She Loves You. The highlight of the film, without a doubt, is Paul's grandfather, played by the hilarious William Bremmel, who spends most of the film running away from the boys, hanging out at a gambling club, and being arrested for trying to sell Beatles photos with forged signatures. Despite all that, anyone who comes across the man in the film has one universal opinion. He's very clean. Coming in at number 4 is My Fair Lady, the 1964 musical drama adapted from Shaw's play Pygmalion. The story follows a Cockney flower seller, Eliza Doolittle, who meets Professor Higgins, who wagers he can teach her how to speak proper English so she could become a member of high society. Rex Harrison stars as the professor, who also played the same role on Broadway. And although the film could have had their female Broadway lead as well, Audrey Hepburn was signed on to play Eliza, with her singing voice dubbed by Marnie Nixon. With a little bit of luck, the film won 8 Academy Awards that year, including Best Picture, Director, and an Acting Award for Harrison. And while I will never understand the casting choice, this musical gem will be always remembered as one of the classics of the 60s. Coming in at number 3 is Mary Poppins. Now, we did promise you Dick Van Dyke would show up again on our list because he seems to own movie musicals of the 60s. But this Disney classic is all about the feature film debut of Julie Andrews, a magical, loving woman who descends from the clouds to care for the 2 children. A stroke of genius casting by Disney and a little lady luck for Julie Andrews, who was passed over as Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady that same year, despite the fact that she originated the role on Broadway. The film was nominated for an astounding 13 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, the most a Disney film has ever received, still to this day. Now, Mary Poppins is just an absolute classic in any musical theater collection and helped launch the film career of one of musical's most cherished performers. Taking our second place spot is West Side Story. Inspired by Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, this 1961 film is not only one of the greatest musicals we've ever seen, but just simply one of the finest American films. It's also one of the most culturally significant films of all time, and whether you're a fan of musicals or not, everyone knows who the Jets and the Sharks are, Tony and Maria, and they can most likely hum some melodies in their head. The film went on to win a record 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, the most a movie musical has ever won, still to this day. Above all else, for me, I will always remember this film as the best transition of choreography from stage to screen, resulting in possibly the best scene in any movie musical, America. So needless to say, there's quite a high bar for the new film coming later this year. And will Steven Spielberg really be able to match the original? Well, I guess we have a new video idea for this December. And finally, at number 1, The Sound of Music. Was there really any other choice? I mean, like I said, ranking these musicals of the past 2 decades from 10 to 2 has been incredibly difficult. But whether it's the 50s or the 60s, there seems like there's just an absolute unanimous number 1. This 1965 release from Rodgers and Hammerstein is not only one of the best musicals ever made, it's simply just one of the greatest films ever made. With Julie Andrews, Christopher Plummer, Robert Weiss, and a soundtrack that Billboard recently ranked the 2nd best album of all time. Winners of 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and a directing win for Weiss, who won earlier in the 60s for West Side Story. Now, if you adjust for inflation, this film still ranks among the top 10 highest-grossing films of all time, with its original theatrical release lasting an incredible 4.5 years. Now, I could throw stats and figures at you forever on this film, so instead, I'll just leave you with possibly the most fitting tagline. The Sound of Music is simply the happiest sound in all the world. Alright, that's our top 10 list of the 1960s. If we missed any of your picks, be sure to let us know about it in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Marc Daniel Patrick, and thanks so much for watching.